There were two goals that we wanted when we made the film. One, we wanted it to be a conversation starter, something that would get people talking about it after the film was finished. And two, we wanted it to be full of surprises. Go where the audience, not go where you never thought it would go, but just not be predictable. You just wouldn't be able to really tell how this was all going to work out.
This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Cassells. Available on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback. You too can become a sponsor of Stories, the True and the Fictional by heading on over to buymeacoffee.com/STTATF or follow the link in the show notes. Hello and welcome to Story Chat. We have a great interview coming up with Matthew Holmes, director of The Legend of Ben Hall and his new smash hit, The Cost. Can't wait to dive into that. But before we do, please remember to like, subscribe, share, all the podcast stuff, and check out our other episodes, The Middle Ages Comic Hour and Stories, the True and the Fictional, all on the same feed. If you want to reach out for any reason, thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com, and check us out on Instagram at stories_podcast. But now, without further ado, here's Matthew Holmes. Matthew Holmes, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me again. It's great to be back.
And as always, we always have wonderful questions for our guests, but when you're a returning guest, you get more questions.
All right, hit me.
We actually have to do more work and create new questions. So I think that you've joined the elite club. I think there's been 4 guests now we've had on for a second time.
Okay.
So it is a very, very elite club. So
nice. I'm feeling special.
You should feel very special. So.
Awesome. Good.
But I'll start the questions this time if you don't mind, Jamie.
Okay, go for it.
So the first question we have for you for round 2 of the icebreakers, Matthew, is when you were a kid, and I think I probably know the answer to this question, but when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, look, and before I wanted to become a filmmaker, the biggest job that I really thought I wanted to be was I wanted to be a professional diver.
Oh,
I wanted to be a scuba diver, a commercial diver, someone who, got into wetsuits and diving gear, and I wanted to explore for sunken ships. I wanted to work underwater on machinery. Just being underwater was the thing that I loved the most. So I remember I carried that for many years until then I discovered movies and quickly diverted my career into that. So
now you can just pretend to be going underwater.
That's right. I just pretend. I keep it safe. I don't know how I really would have gone with that career. I still love the water and I'm still very much a water baby, but I don't think I got the physical prowess and stamina to really become a full professional diver. But it as a 10-year-old, that certainly did take my fancy.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, then you can always, once you're ready for it, in the latest, I don't know if you're a fan of the Uncharted games, but Nathan Drake, the main character, did have a bit of experience in commercial diving, so you can maybe, I don't know, talk to Sony Pictures, see if you can work out and do a sequel to Uncharted. You're probably
nice.
better than the first one.
Yeah.
And
certainly
work
wasn't
in the
much
commercial diving.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I still would love to make a movie set, with divers and diving. And where I was working on a script with my co-writer, Greg Moss. We were working on a screenplay about some people trying to recover something from a sunken World War II ship that's standing upright. Because, you can get some shipwrecks that stand upright. We thought that would make a really cool movie. So, who knows? Maybe one day we might get to it.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome.
That'll be very interesting.
Yeah. So so there you go. What did you think I wanted to be as a child?
I was going to say a filmmaker, like a filmmaker. I thought because I just kind of the way that I've seen all of your all 3 films that, Jamie has introduced me to, and obviously I was watching The Cost the other day, and it just seems to come so natural to you. I thought that it was probably something that you always wanted to do, being one of those kids who, want to make movies. I want to do this kind of thing, and carried it over into adulthood. So
yeah, well, that probably came about 13 when I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker.
okay, well there you go.
So it was one of the ones. So you were actually right. It was, but I did have an occupation I wanted to do earlier than that. So
okay, there you go.
There you go.
It's a common thread. I remember having like 3 or 4 things I wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah,
I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this.
Yeah, the world's so exciting, and the possibilities are endless when you're a child. So
that's it.
Oh, nice.
All right, moving on to number 2. If you could have, and I'm assuming that this would be the kind of thing that would be on set. If you could have a talking animal sidekick, what would you pick?
A talking animal sidekick, probably a raccoon.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love a talking raccoon. I think they're awesome. I think if I could, I know they've done Rocket in the but I just love raccoons, or a hedgehog, or one of those groundhogs, marmots, I think if I had one of those talking, I think that would be my little sidekick.
Would it be voiced by Adam Wilson?
Why not? I think that'd be entirely appropriate. And Adam makes me laugh, so I'm sure my little talking groundhog would make me laugh. So I'd be very happy with an Adam Wilson voiced groundhog.
I was waiting for it. I said to counter how long until Adam Wilson would be referenced in this podcast interview, and we're sitting at I think about 8 minutes. So well done, Jamie.
Hey, I like Adam Wilson, but we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that later. Question 3, Ryan, take it away.
So question 3, you're king, queen, or supreme leader or president for a day. What do you do?
Oh man, a lot to do in a day, but I'd probably want to just eliminate all debt. That's it. Good. Just all debt, back to zero. Everyone goes back to zero. That's what I would do. Eliminate all debt, and if I still had some time left in the afternoon, I would get rid of the housing market, and I would make it illegal to make housing something that you can make money on. Like houses should not be things that you make profit. That like houses are a necessity of life. They shouldn't be something that because this is what makes housing prices go up. So I would I'd simply go, you know what? Houses aren't that anymore. Go do something else. And that way houses remain affordable. And of course, with all of that debt that I've eliminated, I think I'd be pretty popular.
Yeah. I definitely think so. I mean, that's the landlord, and I don't think they listen to this podcast. And if they are, I do apologize. You're lovely people, and please don't kick me out of my home. They own like 7 or 8 houses, and you know what I mean. So I get that. Like they're a retired couple, lovely people, but it does make it. You know what I mean? It makes it harder for I've resigned myself, unfortunately, being 41 to probably not being able to ever own my own house unless I make a massive windfall or win lotto or something like that. That's kind of sad. But
it is.
Considering I've been working since I was 15. So I would definitely support that. Eliminating all the debt and then making sure, hey, you guys can only have one house. You have a house for yourself. You can't have 7 or 8 or 9 or 100 property. No.
And also, if houses aren't there to make money out of anymore, they literally just cost what they cost to build in the land that's on them. And people aren't living in $1 million houses in the suburbs anymore. They're living in $250,000 houses, and that's it. And then everyone can afford one. Everyone can buy it. Yeah. But when you're trying to pay off loans of these ridiculous houses, it's just So that's what I'd do. That'd be my busy day in office.
And you know what? I think that would be a great re-election campaign too. I would definitely be up for that. 100%.
I'm sure I could think of some other really cool ideas. Sure. I'd probably be assassinated by lunchtime, but I got good intentions.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love it. Love it. Awesome. Great answer.
All right. Now a question right up your alley. What book story would you like to see adapted to film?
Okay. I'd like to see Jason and the Argonauts done.
Oh, okay. Yep.
You know the old movie, the old Greek tale. I'm a big fan of the old film, massive fan of the old film. So I would like to see that done really well.
Mhm. I think that's a really good answer. Like I've always been a fan of that kind of, that style of history. I can remember, and it's not exactly the same, but I can remember as a kid being introduced by my parents to the original Clash of the Titans
Yep.
movie with the stop motion and the clay, and oh
Yep.
God, that was so good.
Yeah. That's what
And I
got
think
me. Really got me into
oh really?
filmmaking. Yeah. It was
Oh really? Oh
Jason. It was more Jason and the Argonauts than Clash of the Titans, but the same
yeah,
thing, really.
yeah.
But that was a big influence on me wanting to get into animation and stuff as
Oh
a teenager.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh well, there you go. It's. I just have such fond memories of that film, and when you're you're young and you're watching, you're seeing all these all the mythology brought to life. As bad as it was, stop motion and everything back then. It was just fascinating. So yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. I think that's a great story to see adapted into. And would you, if you were to do it yourself? Obviously, would you still? I know there are still places out there that do stop motion, or would you try and go for a big budget, or would you try and go for, just trying to tell a good story rather than spending billions on CGI?
Well, I've actually written a screenplay for a
Okay.
remake of Jason and the Argonauts that I
Oh,
really hope one day I can direct. I sat down and punched that script out a few years ago. It had got
okay.
optioned twice
Oh,
by another
wow.
filmmaker to direct. The option lapsed though, and the rights are back to me. But I would want to employ stop motion for some, because my background is in stop motion. So
Yeah.
I would employ stop motion for some things, but not everything. So I would
Okay.
make it a bit of a mix of old meets new. But yeah, it would probably be very big budget though. You wouldn't be able to pull off the script that I wrote without a big budget.
So
Very,
kind
very
of like Jurassic Park in the sense that they had, animatronics and CGI.
Yeah, I would have a mix of animatronics, CGI, but I would very much push to do Talos, the big creature. I would very much push for him to be done as a stop motion creature, because you can do a lot of amazing stuff with stop motion now. You can make it a lot smoother. And I think there was something about him being a stop motion character that made him so appealing. So I would probably want to make him stop motion still, rather than a great big CGI thing. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh well, there we go. Look, we'll keep an eye out for that, because I would love to see with your creativeness and imagination what that would look like. And as I said, being a fan of that kind of mythos and mythology, I think it'd be great. So never say never, and hopefully that will.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day I'll be lucky enough. I'll travel to Italy and shoot it there, and make do the remake of Jason the Argonauts, which really still hasn't happened. They made a TV movie of it in the early 2000s, which nobody saw. But it still feels like one of those classics that it's revered, but it's not so revered that I think it's not right for a remake. So, and it still hasn't been done, and I'm just hoping that that's because it's waiting for me to get there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's awesome. No, definitely. I cannot wait to see that if it does happen.
Well, the script's there, so we're partway there already.
Yeah. So if any of you rich investors, studios are listening, please reach out to us at Story True or the Fictional.
That's it. It's ready to go. Just sign a check and we'll get started.
Exactly. All right. All right, let's knock off this last question so we can start talking about the cost and the amazing movie it is. So it's another Elon Musk one. Elon Musk has perfected his electric time machine and has put you in charge for organising a dinner party of historical figures. We don't really have a limit on it. I'm going to say maybe 8 at the max. But who would you put on your guest list for your dead or alive? Doesn't matter who it is.
Well, look, I'm going to be a little bit. There's probably so many amazing historical figures you could reach for, but right now, all I really want to do is have a dinner party with Ben Hall, Frank Gardner, Johnny Gilbert, Ned Kelly, John Vane, Captain Moonlight, Dan Morgan, and maybe the Clark brothers. I just want to have them all there, and I want to listen to all of their stories. I want to look at their mannerisms. I want to hear I want to figure them all out, and that way I can go away and make my Bushrangers TV series based on all of these lives of these characters, and I can dramatize them to perfection. So that's who I would want at my dinner party. So it's just more film research, really.
Yeah, and look, that's a smart answer to that. Why not? If Elon Musk is offering to do it, you can. My question is, would you have them check firearms at the door just in case it gets a little bit rowdy with those kind of characters?
I probably would be a very good idea, or at least take away their ammunition, because
Yes.
it could change the course of history if they start shooting at each other. So,
I mean, there's two things that could happen. They could start shooting at each other, or they could start a new gang, and
crikey, can you imagine? Yeah, that would be one hell of a gang. So, but probably one that wouldn't last very long. I think they would end up shooting each other.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that's who I'd have at my party. Yeah.
I think that'd be a very interesting party. I think I'd love to be a fly on the wall, and I'm sure being the filmmaker you are, you'd have a couple of cameras positioned around hidden so that you can obviously
Oh yeah.
You could imagine the behind the scenes documentary on that TV show. You could actually have the official historic dinner party as a bonus feature or something.
Oh, I'd be doing that for sure. Absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
It sounds like Bill and Ted 4,
Yes.
Yeah.
Bushranger edition.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I know it's probably not the best use of a time machine, but hey, it's my answer.
Yeah.
So,
No,
it's exactly. And I say to people all the time, I say, especially with the first group of questions, don't give us your political answers. Like, don't say, you've got one wish, I just want to get rid of all war and everything, which is noble and that's amazing. But these are your questions. We want to know this is about getting to know you. And that's why I try and say to people, rather than give us the answer that you think everyone wants to hear, we want to learn about you. So I think that's a perfect answer.
Awesome. Good. I passed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can
Second round passed.
Move to phase 2.
In 1932, the Australian Army declared war on 20,000 emus and lost. It's a part of Australian history that not many know about. Maybe that's because history is written by those who win. So if you want to hear the full story of the Great Emu War of 1932, then check out my book, Letters from the Emu War. Read letters, newspaper articles, and journal entries. With every turn of the page, you will gain a deeper understanding of the life and times of emus at war. So head on over to jabryden.com and grab a signed copy today. Last time we had you on, we talked about everything Legend of Ben Hall, and then, of course, the one question that Ryan wrote down, we're going to ask him about this. He didn't ask you. So Ryan wants to know about the facial hair budget of the Legend of Ben Hall.
Yeah, because that was my first time watching that movie was at Jamie's house before we did our first interview with you. And before that, Jamie, I think it was very early in starting these interview podcasts, and Jamie had been raving about this movie and how he went to the premiere and all this. So I'm personally, I'm not a massive, don't hate me, not a massive fan of Bushranger movie, but I sat down and I watched Ben Hall from start to finish. I don't think I looked at my phone once. It was amazing. And there have been a few since that I really enjoy. But what I thought is, wow, I actually thought logically, shooting a film set back then, now, with all the different variations of facial hair, you would see some of it had to be not real and some of it had to be, I don't know if they call it prosthetics or whatever they call it for facial prosthesis or whatever that may be. I was legitimately concerned at if you actually had a facial hair budget in that movie.
We did have a facial hair budget, and it probably would have been about $3,500, I think. So because they're expensive to make, Ben Hall had to have a prosthetic beard, and Jamie needed a wig, and Ben Hall needed sideburns. Yeah, there was a few things like that. But what we did do is, and one of our policemen needed a big bar handle moustache. Yeah. So we got these things all professionally made. They're very expensive, but they weren't very successful. Some of them were made very badly, and we had to supplement them with other bits of prosthetics to try to hide them. But there was a particular set of sideburns that Ben Hall had that when we filmed with him, with these sideburns that he wore in the first part of the movie, which came right down the side of his face, looked absolutely awful.
Oh, really?
They looked like two pieces of carpet pasted on his face. Man, we didn't know, and like we had to just film with them, and they looked terrible, and all the footage just looked garbage. It was, and we were so worried about how, because we couldn't fix it on set. We didn't have the time. It just looked terrible.
Yeah.
So we actually resorted to digital effects. And pretty much the beginning of the movie, when you see Ben Hall with big sideburns going down his face, we have digitally added beard, good-looking beard to the side of his face digitally for all of the shots of Ben Hall. And people haven't been able to pick it.
I haven't. I honestly thought I couldn't have picked it. It's not like the Henry Cavill in Justice League where you could clearly tell.
Yeah.
But no, wow. So that was digital.
So he's got the really bad ones on. But what we did is we took photographs of actor Jack Martin. We put fake ones on him, but made them look really, really real. And then we took a photo all around his face, like lots and lots of photos all around. And then we gave those to a special effects dude. And he cut out the really, really good one and then mapped it onto his face and tracked all his motion and his talking and everything. So it looked and made those fake, terrible looking sideburns look real. And nobody has ever been able to spot it. That's how clever this digital artist was. So that was and so that added a bit more extra money in the digital sideburns department. So there was both digital and real beards. But as for the rest of the film, I mean, sometimes we, if Ben Hall was on set and he didn't need his beard or he didn't need his moustache or whatever, we would sometimes give that moustache to other people in the crowd. So we would share the beards around. And but we also had this thing like in Melbourne at the time, it was hipsters were a bit of a thing, and men walking around with big beards is very popular. And so we would just do casting calls for extras, and we would just cast people, and they'd show us their beards, and we'd just say, "Yep, you got the role. Come on in." So we were casting beards.
Wow, imagine that! I can just imagine that. I've prepared a monologue. No, just send me a photo of your face. I want to see your beard. Yeah, but I've worked for like the last 3 months on. No, just show me the beard.
No, you got a beard, you're in. That's it. You can't grow a beard, right? You're out.
Well, then look, I'm glad I didn't apply to be an extra on The Legend of Ben Hall because I can't grow facial hair to save my life. So that was a time of
probably would have made the cut. Probably. Yeah, I think Jamie would have, but not you. So
mine grew so quick. Like this length, it took me like 3 months. Like originally, it was just like poof.
Wow. Yeah, you would have definitely made the cut.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the beard situation.
Well, and it wasn't even a joke thing when I said it to Jamie, even though he had a bit of a laugh. I thought my head goes there when I watch movies and I watch TV shows, and I legitimately think there would have had to have been some kind of budget for prosthetic beards and prosthetic facial hair and stuff like that.
Because people did not generally these guys this age don't wear beards like that. The only thing that Jamie Coffer, who played Gilbert, he did have his sideburns are real. Yeah. He looked like Wolverine. But they were always real. But he had short hair, so they had to shave the top of his head to glue his wig on.
Wow!
So for a few months, he walked around with a beanie on because he had like a friar tuck head, bald on the top, but around the sides was real, and he had sideburns. He looked like Wolverine. So.
Oh wow! Well, there we go. I appreciate. I know we didn't get enough time to ask that question last time, but thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate that.
No worries. Glad we sorted it out.
And now we get to move on to the current masterpiece, which, as I was mentioning to you off where, is probably one of my favorite movies of this year. And I'm not just saying that to people who know me know I don't like to blow smoke up people's behinds, but
thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're here today to talk about your new movie, The Cost.
Yeah.
So so I think you briefly last time we had you on I think you briefly mentioned it. So we did talk about it a little bit. I'm not sure, it's been quite a while. But yeah, so before we get stuck into some of the some of the nitty gritty questions and things that me and Jamie picked up when we watched it. So how did this all come about? Was it like, where did you find the concept for the film? Where, obviously you have a process that you go about. So how did it all start, and roughly how long ago, if you don't mind?
It was about, I think the germ of the idea started in about 2017, just after Ben Hall. I was reading a newspaper article about a man who his daughter's killer was being released early, and they were interviewing him. And I remember thinking, oh boy, if I was that guy, what would I want to do to that guy now that he's out? Would I want to hunt him down? And what would I do to him if I got him? And then I thought, hang on, that seems like that's good movie fodder. So I put that parked that in my little vault in my mind. And then I've been trying to get lots of films off the ground since Ben Hall. Lots of them got very close and then they fell over because of financing. And I was really just looking for something nice and small and contained that I could do on a very low budget to sort of get back in the director's chair, and so I didn't get too rusty. And and so I just took that idea, and then sort of with my co-writer Greg Moss, we sort of punched out a story about revenge, but also trying to look at revenge through a different lens than we normally see in a revenge movie, and do something that was nice and contained, 3 or 4 characters in one location. Excuse me. So it really was born out of what can we do for very little money.
Okay.
And that's how we did it. And then we punched out the script. Probably took us like 4 or 5 weeks, and we were at first draft.
Oh, wow.
And a few more weeks later, we had a draft that we were very happy with, and then we thought we could go ahead and make it. So, yeah.
Excellent.
So was there much changes from draft? Because you obviously did a few drafts. Did much change over time?
There was some... The basic story never changed. The beginning, the middle, the end, and the characters within it never changed. It really is. If you look at the earliest drafts, you'll see it very much is the same film that you see today. Cosmetically, it changed a little bit, but it really didn't change all that much. The characters and the actors, when they came on board, they started interpreting dialogue and adding their own sort of flavor to some of the dialogue, but more or less was the same movie. It didn't really change that much from draft to draft. It just refined. So so that answers that question. But
that was an off the cuff question. That's how
that's all right.
Normally do most of my questions. I just get ideas that pop into my head, where Jamie's more off the notes.
Yeah, that's all right.
But we were discussing cameos in this film. So I spent my first watch, when I watched it, I think it was the day that it came out, or the day after, I'm not sure, in the morning when I watched it. I was looking through the scenes where there were a lot of people in there to see if I could see. One, I was actually looking for yourself, because I know you had a small cameo in Ben Hall, and I thought, I'm going to see if I can find Matthew Holmes. And I don't know if I could. I watched it twice so far, and I couldn't find you, so I don't know if you're actually in this one.
I am, but you won't be able to spot me. You won't be. I'll forgive you for not spotting me. It's a very good reason, but I'll explain that when the time comes.
Okay, excellent. I think it was on my after Jamie watched it and I did my second watch. We saw our good friend Steve Yeager in an early scene at the warehouse or the job site.
Yep.
And Jamie does insist that he's whispering to the guy next to him that he killed Ben Hall.
Yes.
That's the line of dialogue we've chosen to give him out of your movie.
It seems appropriate.
But and obviously Jamie's favorite, Adam Wilson, being, are we correct in he was the store worker at the liquor shop?
Yeah, he's Mick the bottle shop man.
That's right. Yeah. So was there any other cameos that we may have missed from people from your other films, aside from main characters?
Okay, Steve Samet was the man at the petrol station who was.
Yep.
And he was also one of the guys who shot Ben Hall. He was one of the troopers.
Yeah.
And I think there would have been another Ben Hallian, the guy who fights Johnny Gilbert, the fist fight with Johnny Gilbert. He originally was cast as the role of Brian, the farmer.
Okay. Yep, the farmer.
yeah,
Yep.
the neighbour.
But unfortunately, because of the COVID lockdowns, because he's a South Australian actor,
Right,
and the border restrictions, he was not able to come over for filming anymore.
Oh, okay.
So Clayton Watson was a last-minute replacement for him, very last minute. So, yeah,
and he did a very, very good job. I don't think I've seen him in anything personally, but he was, you know, that was another one. I was talking to Jamie. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I was sort of sitting up, and I'm just like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. You know, and he was really good in his role.
Yeah, he's good. You probably, have you seen the Matrix sequels?
Yeah, yep. Not for a long time, but
okay. Well, Clayton was in the Matrix sequels. He played the kid, the very young, sort of shaved head kid in Zion. He keeps running around after Neo, and in the third film, he's running around like loading up the machine guns on the robotic.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's him. Oh, wow. Oh, there you go.
A bit younger and thinner there, but that's Clay.
And now he's patching roofs for neighbours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's just gone downhill. You know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a noble profession, patching roofs.
That's right. So yeah. So that was him. And to my cameo, I am in the film. But you will never spot me because you can't recognize me. When they load Troy into the canvas bag, when they carry him out the front and dump his body in the back of the car, I'm in the bag.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well, okay. I don't feel so bad for not noticing you then.
But that's my cameo. When we filmed that scene, Kevin was not there that night when we did that, just those shots. And there was really no one else in the crew to go in there. And I thought, well, I said, I don't want to put, and there was a bit of people were a bit worried to go in the bag. And I said, stuff it, I'll do it. So I was the one going in and out, getting thrown in the boot over and over. So that was me. So
there you go.
I'm sort of in the movie, but I'm a shit. I'm a shit in the bag.
How many takes was that of getting thrown in the boot? And how many takes?
I think I did about 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, about 5 or 6 takes. So I was in that bag for a while, and I was really worried that the boys were going to drop me, and then I was, and my butt bone would have just landed straight on the concrete. But they didn't. They didn't drop me. So
that was good of them.
Very good of them.
And isn't that a little risky as a director? Like, I mean, if your cast have problems with you, they'll be like, "What's that? What? I can't hear you."
That's it. You know? Yeah, I was fortunately on good terms with them at that stage. There was no bad blood, so if there was, I probably wouldn't have put myself in such a precarious situation. So all good.
Look, it is a very intense movie, and I've got to ask. I'm wondering about the. How things were on set between the actors, like, because like you literally have someone whipping and do, like, you know, in that situation, like, what's it like on set? Well,
the actors were extremely dedicated and they were very supportive of each other. I know that Damon and Jordan, they told Kevin this, but they wanted to maintain a distance from Kevin. They didn't know Kevin before the movie, and they didn't want to get too chummy with him during the filmmaking process. They just wanted to keep a bit of separation so they didn't have to break through them becoming friends with him.
Yeah.
So it sort of wore off as the film went on and on and on, and everyone became very good friends, but they sort of kept a bit of a distance just to help them feel a coldness towards the character with their performance. But having said that, it was one of the most harmonious film sets I've ever been on, where cast and crew, everyone just got along, everyone supported each other, everyone was respectful. And even though we were doing some very emotionally challenging scenes, there was never any, there was no problems. People weren't getting upset with each other. Everyone was very, 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 very kind and made it very safe for everybody to work and do those kinds of scenes. So it was actually quite positive on set, despite the fact we were making such negative,
Yeah.
doing such negative scenes. I mean, sometimes, you know, you'd go home feeling a little bit icky about the day because some of the scenes got pretty horrible. And the actors were under a lot of emotional and physical stress in some of those scenes. But again, it was just about constantly just looking after people, checking in on how people are feeling, and when we got through it with, you know, relatively unscathed.
Excellent. Well, what I think I might like to, and I haven't brought this up with Jamie yet. So as all of our all of our meetings do happen on air. I don't know if are we allowed to, if we want to say here, talk spoilers, because there are certain things that happened in the movie that I do want to discuss.
Sure. Well, just
so
put
maybe
the disclaimer.
maybe we say, we'll say here,
from this point
if
on,
you haven't
spoilers.
seen the movie yet, we're going to be talking spoilers. So go away, do yourself a favor. Go to JB Hi-Fi, watch it on Amazon Prime or wherever you can get it, and then come back and listen to here. So what I wanted to say is the most heart-stopping moment for me was when they were pulled over by the police.
Oh, yeah.
Driving down the, and Jamie watched it the following day after I did and messaged me about it. That moment, when I think it was so they're talking about the tail light, and you've got David's out there with the police officer, and I'll help you fix it, let's just you're trying to be a nice country copper, and then when he says, Aaron, just pop the boot, I've got what the hell, I'm sorry, what are you doing? And then, he opens it up and they have a look, and it's like there's nothing ever happened. And then I love the moment that they had in the car when they get back in and he's like, and whose idea was it to buy that bag again? And I thought that I must commend you on that, because that was probably the most, I know there was a lot of moments in there, but that was the moment where I was sitting up and I'm like, don't you can't. Knowing full well that there was still like an hour and a half of the movie to go, so it wasn't going to end here, but I was just like, you cannot do, what are you doing? And so and there's a few moments there, like at the service station with the truck driver. Yeah, you've got Troy banging on the boot, and the truck driver's here giving you coffee, he's not hearing the banging. I mean, so was that more of a, like, how did you come up with those moments? Were you just sort of thinking, look, there's not going to be much time for, being that it is all shot mainly in one location in the bush, we need to sort of put some tense moments in there, or we need to sort of have those near misses? Is that what you were sort of thinking of there?
Yeah, pretty much. I think it comes from, we did need to, we knew that we had a couple of goal posts in the movie that we knew we had to hit.
Yeah.
And we knew that, so spoilers, we knew that at the midpoint of the movie, David had to change his mind.
Yeah.
That's what sends the story in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And then we also knew what our ending was, which was Troy getting away and going to Brian's house. So we already knew these had to happen, but we knew that that him changing his mind had to happen on page 45.
Yeah.
And what do we do for 45 pages, 45 minutes of the movie? Okay. We knew once he's in the bush and they're beating him up, we couldn't keep that going forever. So it really was, how do we create tension and how do we learn about these characters before it's revealed why they got this guy? And so it just seemed like the natural thing. Like, I think whenever writing scripts like this, you just think, what is the worst that could happen? Yeah. And so we just thought the worst thing that could happen was for him to wake up at a public place with his people around. And it was actually we wrote that script, and then it wasn't until later that we went, you know what? Let's have a cop as well. Let's add another scene straight afterwards, a cop. So we're sort of compounding problems and compounding tension, because we thought the way this movie works is like a rubber band, just keep tightening, keep stretching. How long can we keep the tension going? And we thought if we add a cop on top of what just happened at the petrol station, the audience, before we even get to the bush, the audience is already going to be going,
and that's what it was. Yeah. And that's what it was. Even the fact, you were like, these guys are literally like an hour and a half away from home, and the potential of them, their whole mission going astray so quickly after, as you find out, how long they've been planning this for.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah.
I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. These guys have got to have the worst possible luck before they even get started.
Yep. And I've been in situations before with I got pulled over by a cop, and I won't say what was in the back of my car, but I was very, very worried that he was going to look in my boot, and you know, and he was just pulling me over because he knew I was speeding, but he didn't get a speed on me, and the anxiety that I felt that night was very, very tangible. Trying to act normal, like everything was okay, just hoping that he didn't open the back. And then I also got pulled over for a tail light in the middle of the night for a broken tail. So I just drew on real life to create that scene. And one of the things that I thought was very important is when we did this scene, I said to the actor playing the cop, I said, don't play him like you're suspicious. Just play him like a bored cop who's out on his own. He's bored. He's looking for someone to give a ticket to. He's pulled 1,000 people over. This is no different. Don't in any way come across nefarious. And what I think that did is it made it feel very real. Everyone knows what it's like to be pulled over with a cop who talks to you like that. And so at every point in the movie, we're constantly just trying to find out a way to make it feel real, like not overplay it like a movie, but just keep it really relatable. And I think that's maybe where the tension comes from. At the petrol station, on the night when I was talking to the actor, and I was like, what would Aaron do to cover up the noise of the boot? And so we were just talking about it with the actors, and I was standing there and I was going, what would I do? And then I just started hitting the roof of the car, and I went, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this. Boom, 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 boom. Pretend you're drumming the roof, and that's what. And Aaron, Damon, who plays Aaron, he was like, oh, that's going to look silly. That's dumb, man. That's stupid. And I said, well, but mate, that's the point. It is ridiculous, but it's all you've got, and it's the best you can do in the spur of the moment. And it always gets a laugh. And whenever I went to the screenings, that moment always got a laugh.
Yeah, because it's not like you've got a truck driver filling up and watch. It's not like you can just open the boot and punch the guy, or give him another shot. Which obviously
that's right.
You have to do something. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's right. He can't even move the car because the keys have been taken out. So it really is that, okay, just quickly do something to cover the noise. And and I think it was a great lesson for me as a filmmaker to learn that with tension also add humor. Definitely. There's something about the funniness of a situation can also add a lot to tension, which is something we've later on when Troy's trying to get away and he finds their vehicle and he's looking for the car keys and he honks the horn. It's a very tense scene, but it still gives you a laugh.
Oh, definitely. And I also like the scene going back when in the whole preparation when we're leading up to it, when David's in Mitre 10 and he's picking up all the items, and I was just thinking, he's going to have to play this so cool and calm and collected and not show any kind of signs, because, the kind of items that he was putting in the trolley and buying, we know what the movie's about. You can see how they're going to relate to it. But to a store counter person, they're going to, I know, yes, it's a hardware store. Yes, it's, they sell these products, but the way that he was calm, and you can tell he probably practiced this in his head 1,000,000 times, didn't arouse any kind of suspicion whatsoever with all the items that he was buying, I think was another sort of element in there that you could see, okay, this is going to be, it's going to be a little bit different to the kind of thrillers like this that you see before, because normally you've got the guy in the store panicking and yelling at the clerk saying, stop asking all these questions. But he was just cool, calm and collected. We've got this project. We're doing renovations. We're doing this. And there was no suspicion raised whatsoever. And I think that was another really different thing because I'm a massive fan of these kind of movies. Like I thought this one's right up my alley. And that's why I wanted to watch it as soon as it came out. And I just think that's another thing that separates it from other films, how you've got to have that little bit of humor, but then
Yeah.
you've also got David is, even though he's very emotional because of what's happened to his wife, he's also being very smart about it.
Yeah,
And
he's
it's not-
also quite smart. Like in the story, when Brian turns up, he's the one who does all the talking. He's quiet when he gets on the spot. It's like all his planning kicks in, and he has the answers ready because he spent so many years plotting. So he's got all his answers ready, and that's something that the actor Jordan really, really worked on. And we really talked a lot about every scene. How are they covering their tracks? They've been planning this a long time. And so, I'm glad that, audiences and viewers like yourself are picking up on all those details because we absolutely put them in there. There's no accidents. We put everything in there in the hope that all these things are telling you information about these characters.
And that's 100%. And I also love now moving forward in once the guys have gotten to the property, and they've started their the initial plans. And you can see in David, you can see how hard it is for him, even though it was his wife and it was Aaron's sister. You can see how hard it is for David. This is completely out. Where one thing that I found from this movie, and I said it to Jamie, one of my favorite Australian actors is Matt Nable. I absolutely love him. I think he's a brilliant actor. I first saw him in a film called The Final Winter a long time ago, and that's where I kind of followed his career. And the gentleman that plays Aaron, not in looks, but he reminds me a lot of Matt Nable in his demeanor. He's like, this is the plan. This is what we're here to do. Nothing is going to stop me from doing. Nothing's going to stop us from doing what we're set out to do.
Yes.
We're gonna, what he put. Stephanie, I think the wife's name was Stephanie through. What he's put her through, we're going to put you through, and then we're going to kill you. And he, the whole, we've got the graves dug, we've got everything worked out. So I must say that he was a really good. The gentleman that played Aaron, I hadn't seen him in anything before that I can recall, but he was a really good casting. I think he played that role really well.
No, he was great. Yeah, Damon's a very good actor and very, but played his character very differently. From the very beginning, I said to David and Aaron, I said, the way to play this is, David, you act and make decisions based on emotion, but Aaron based his everything on reason.
Yep.
So whenever they face a problem, they're always coming at it from these two angles, and inevitably they're going to clash.
Yeah.
So so it was fun playing with all those character dynamics within just a very small trio of characters, and never really knowing where the loyalties were going to lie, how it was shifting, how the power struggles were moving between those three characters all the time.
Oh, definitely, and I think what you just said is a perfect example when they're on the property, as I was saying, and Brian comes into play. They spoke where the quick thinking, the emotional, and the reasonable thinking was like, I think it was Aaron that offered, hey, can we give you a hand? And David, I think he's like, what are you doing? He's like, the sooner we get him finished, the sooner he's going to go, so we can get back to doing what we're here to do. Yeah. And I thought, there you go. That's exactly what you said. That's the reason, the logical thinking. Yeah. Whereas David's emotional. He's like, let's just get rid of him. I want to get back and get this done. This is what, you know what I mean? I think that's where a perfect example of what you were describing. And then, they end up, getting Brian out within, I think a span of, he was gone by nightfall.
Yes,
at nightfall, right. And I think that was a really, really good, because that's, again, something you don't see in these kind of movies. Like, why would the people who are doing this offer to help someone out? Because one, I mean, I think that's what Aussie, we do. We like to help each other, but it's also the reasoning, let's help him, because then he can bugger off and we can do what we need to do.
And we don't look suspicious,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's always about how we get away with this. So they're always thinking in those kinds of terms, thinking on their feet, because these are problems they didn't anticipate. They could never have anticipated that they didn't anticipate that the drugs weren't going to knock him out completely. They didn't anticipate that the cop would pull them over. They didn't anticipate someone would turn up. And they certainly didn't anticipate that one of them would change their mind. So it's constantly it's the constant shifting sands of the best laid plan, but it's always changing. And these characters are having to think on their feet. So it was a lot of fun writing it, actually, because it was, oh man, okay, let's throw a curveball into the story and how are we going to write ourselves out of it? So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, the actors understood their characters and their characters' role in the script so well that they were coming to me, on a daily basis with ideas about the script. And some, even the guy who played Aaron, he would always come up and go, you know what? I don't think my character would say this line, or he wouldn't say it like this. I think he would say this line and he would say it like this instead. And inevitably I would say, oh, that sounds much better, do that. Or if I thought, no, it really should be this way, we would just do a compromise and I'd say, right, we'll shoot it as scripted and then we'll shoot another version in your way. That way we've got both, because you may well be right, but I also may be right. So let's have both ready, and then in the edit, we'll see which one feels right when we do the edit. And I'm glad I did that, because a lot of the times I did use his takes, and sometimes I did stick to my guns and I used mine. So it really was a way of compromising and knowing that I may not have it right and he might be right.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And another thing, sorry, Jamie, I know I'm talking a lot, but I just got so many things about this movie that I love, and the fact that we get to have a chat with you about it, Matthew, is just amazing. What I liked as well about I think is it Kevin D who plays Troy?
Yep, Kev.
What I love about him is the whole, once you get to the situation where we're about halfway in and David's having his doubts, and I couldn't. And obviously Troy's telling us all about what happened in prison, like the guards and the prisoners would rape him, and the guards wouldn't do anything about it because they all knew what he was there for, and how he'd learn his lesson. And what I really enjoyed was I couldn't work out if he was just manipulating David or if he was actually being real and this, everything that happened to him affected him and had changed him. Because most movies like that are set, these revenge movies, you can kind of tell if they really regret what they did and they've really changed. But I could not pick whether he was just being a really manipulative person, or whether he actually was remorseful and he actually had changed his ways. So was that an intention of yours? With your writing, did you want people sort of going, some people saying, hey, look, he's full of crap, or some people going, no, maybe he has changed and he does deserve a second chance?
I wanted it to be ambiguous because... And I had some people, when they originally read the script, they said, oh, this character of Troy, he needs to be more evil and he needs to be more manipulative and we need to see that he's really bad. And I said, that's the wrong way. It's not that kind of movie. It's not. Yeah. Because if we, the audience, see in his eyes just a flash of evil that this guy is, then there's no conflict anymore.
Yeah.
We want this guy dead. And these characters are going to just go, you're gone for it. Yeah, it's not going to be hard to pull the trigger on a guy that is just flat evil and is not sorry. What they didn't anticipate, those characters, is that they thought this character was pure evil. That's in their mind, the man that they had created.
Yep.
When they see the man in front of them, they see, I don't know if you actually are an evil man. Maybe he is, but there's enough doubt in the mind to go, hang on, what am I doing? And I think without that doubt, there's no conflict. Now, as a filmmaker, I kind of left it open-ended, so audiences had to figure it out. And we did put some things in the story that make you think maybe he's not changed anymore, because he was scoping out that girl on the train.
He was, yeah.
But then we do other things where maybe he has got some integrity now because he doesn't drop the rock onto David.
Yeah, exactly.
and what he's saying and the experiences he's sharing and so on, maybe he has learned his lesson. Maybe he does actually know he did the wrong thing and he's not going to do it anymore. Maybe that is why they let him out of prison. And so I thought, as long as there's doubt, we've got drama. And I know the actor Kevin has got his own ideas on the character and what he thinks is really going on and how he played it. But I like the ambiguity of it because I think that's what creates the conflict for the characters in the story, but it also creates conflict for the audience.
Oh, 100%. There were moments where I was feeling sorry for him. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Why am I feeling sorry for him? And they're the moments where, and you're exactly right, where you say you don't want to make him pure evil, because then I would have just sat back and I'm just sitting back. I'm just waiting to see the torture and the death that they do to this man because he didn't deserve redemption. Yeah. Whereas I wasn't. I was like, okay, like maybe like he sounds like if what he's saying is true, happened to him in prison and everything, maybe he's, you know, yes, he got out early, but I mean, what he suffered in prison, maybe that was enough. Yeah. And that's, I think, was where David was sort of coming from. You know, he's like, you hear him say, did this really happen? And that's when you can see the doubt form in David's mind. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to shut up for a minute now, and because I'm just talking way too much. But yeah, I apologize, but
that's all right.
I just absolutely love the movie. So
no, that's quite.
Why don't you take it away, Jamie?
Okay, the question I have for you, Matthew, is: can you tell that Ryan really enjoyed your film?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know.
Look, well, put it this way. I've been watching a lot of movies and TV since I got out of hospital, and I've been actually rewatching one of my favorite Australian shows of all time, Blue Heelers. And I have the complete 190 disc box set that I've collected over the years. And I used to watch it with my family, and I used to have very fond memories. And it's really fun seeing actors come up. You know, you see a very young Hugh Jackman, and you see very young Australian cast. So, you know, I was able to put that aside to watch the cost, but it was, you know, I'm all about Australian film and Australian cinema. Some of the best cinema in Australia, some of the best cinema in the world is Australian. So that is why I'm so passionate about the film, as well as this is my kind of genre. This is my kind of film. And it honestly had me guessing up until the very end what is actually going to happen. So
great. Well, that was very intentional. No, don't apologize, mate. No, we intended it to be we really, there were two goals that we wanted when we made the film. One, we wanted it to be a conversation starter, something that would get people talking about it after the film was finished. And two, we wanted it to be full of surprises. Go where the audience, not go where you never thought it would go, but just not be predictable. You just wouldn't be able to really tell how this was all going to work out. And it seems like we've been successful.
Oh, definitely.
And interesting that you love Blue Heelers. Look out for one episode of Blue Heelers. You will see Damon Hunter, who played Aaron. You will see him turn up as Detective Constable Waters in a Blue Heelers episode. So
excellent. I shall. I'm only up to season 2 on my, because as you know, like the seasons of Blue Heelers have about, I think, 47 episodes per season, because it was a weekly show back in the day. So I'm halfway through season 2 at the moment. So I'm about 80 episodes in.
You've got a long way to go. He's in season 12. So good luck.
Okay. I will. And I also noticed when I was doing the research on IMDb, the gentleman that Kevin D is actually in an episode of Blue Heelers too. So I'm going to keep an eye out for him as well.
Yep. Look out for him. They that'll I'm sure they'll pop up. You're probably just a little bit younger, that's all.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. All right, as mentioned, Jamie, take it away.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything else because it'll set Ryan off. No, really interested in casting, because I think it was a great cast, but how many people auditioned, or did you have people in mind that you approached? Like, how did the casting go?
It was very non-traditional. When I wrote the script, I knew I wanted Damon and Jordan to play those two characters. Yeah. We already had them in our mind's eye when Greg and I did the writing. So Damon had been encouraging. We were good friends, and he was encouraging me to write something very small and contained. And if I did, he would get in. He would put his hand up and do it with me.
Oh, awesome.
Because it was all volunteer. We shot this all volunteer cast and crew. When I finished the script, I then took it. I then called a meeting with Jordan, and we went for a beer. And I said, "I got a surprise for you, mate." And I pulled out the script. And I said, "Here's a movie called The Cost. I want you to play the lead role." I basically wrote it with you in mind. Have a read, see what you think. And of course, he took it. And same with Damon. So those, and then all the other characters in the story, with the exception of Brian and Troy, everyone else was an actor that I knew, or I've worked with before, or I want to work with, and I just took the role straight to them and gave it to them. There was no auditioning. But in the case of Troy, I did actually have an actor that I wrote in my mind. I thought this guy would take this role, and then I gave him the script, and then he turned it down. And it wasn't because he didn't like the script. He just said that's just too, that role is just too intense, and I don't want to be in that headspace of that character and have to go through what that character goes through. So he turned it down. I took it to another actor. They did exactly the same thing for exactly the same reasons. And then it was I was looking through. I was desperately searching lots and lots of pages of Australian actors, and then I saw Kevin's face, and it was just something about his face that stood out to me. I thought, that's my mental perception of Troy. So I reached out to him. I saw some of his work. We had some mutual friends. He did a self-test, and he knocked it out of the park, and I just gave him the role straight away. So, and of course I explained that Brian, he was a last-minute casting when the borders closed and Josh couldn't get over.
Yeah.
So that's really how we cast it. It was pretty, it's pretty organic in that way. But I always knew, it was Jordan and Damon in those two lead roles.
Because you worked with Jordan on Ben Hall, wasn't he? Wasn't he Ben Hall? Yeah.
Yep, Jordan was. Yeah, he was. He played the Inspector Davidson, who was leading the policeman at the end who killed Ben Hall. I've been wanting to work with Jordan in a leading role in a movie for 15 years. I saw him in a play in Adelaide. I thought he was just magnetic. I thought he was an amazing actor. I thought he had something very special. And I met him in the foyer afterwards and introduced myself, and I said, "I want to make movies with you. I think you're great." And we've just been working together. We've had some scripts come and go, but finally I got to do a film with him in the lead. So, and I think, I've been proven right. He is definitely a very special actor and a very talented man. So I'm glad he gets to shine, and people are really seeing the strength of his acting ability.
Oh, definitely. You could see, like when we're first introduced to him and Aaron, I before they sort of said, "Hey, Stephanie was my wife and she was my sister," and I could tell just from the way he acted in that first 20, 25 minutes that he had a deeper connection to Stephanie than what Aaron did, before they even said, "Hey, that was my wife and that was my sister," because he was so good in conveying the emotion. Like we discussed before. And whereas I honestly picked, when they're talking to Brian when they're having a beer discussing their professions, I half expected Aaron to say he was some sort of military, like ex army member, because of how regimented and exactly how logical he was. I was expecting, and I think he was a plumber, wasn't he?
Plumber.
Yeah, so I was honestly expecting him to be some sort of, army sergeant or something like that, or a police officer or something, because just because of how regimented and how calm he was. There was no, little to no emotion until the very end, which is and that's not saying he can't portray emotion. I think he portrayed the character exactly how, from what you've said, you intended him to be portrayed, as a stoic, eye on the prize. This is what we're here to do. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it. And obviously, in the end, which we haven't spoken about yet, ended up doing what had to be done. You know what I mean?
That character very much. If you talk to Damon, he says that the character actually is a very emotional character, but he has learnt to compartmentalize emotion, and keeps everything right down here, and doesn't let things get to him. That's how he rolls. But you do see it in that scene where he's digging the pit and he starts getting the shakes and he vomits. It's because there is still emotion in him. He's just very good at suppressing it.
Yeah.
Whereas he pushes it down, and whereas David can't. It all just ruptures out of him constantly. But the other thing is that David's life, since losing Stephanie, David's life is kind of off the rails. He really doesn't have anyone or anything to live for except revenge. Whereas Damon's character has now got his wife, he's got his son, he's got his normal life. He had to be persuaded on this. So he's got a lot more on the line, which is also what keeps him so on target. It's no longer really about getting revenge on this guy. It's about, if I don't go through with this, I lose wife, I lose family, I lose freedom.
Everything.
Yeah. Whereas he loses everything. Whereas Jordan's character is already in such a bad place. He feels like he's lost everything anyway.
Yep.
So the thought of turning himself over to the law, it doesn't mean as much to him. So that's why Damon's character is just so steadfast in his resolve, because he's got a lot more on the line.
Yeah, and that's I suppose that makes a lot of sense, because you see with David's character, obviously he has that sort of little starting of ideas to get back out there with Meg, or Megan, the character Megan that we see. There's a bit of flirting going on, and obviously she's a bit keen, and I think he probably needed to do this. This is all he's been thinking about since Stephanie was taken away from him. And he's like, I need to do. I essentially got the vibe as initially David needed to do this to be able to move on with his life.
Yeah, that's at least what he thought he needed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then just in the end of the film, all I've got to say is poor Brian. Poor Brian. I really felt for the guy. I felt for the guy, because I honestly thought he was going to say, look, like when he said, just get the body off my property.
Yeah.
And then poor Brian just takes the tumble and unfortunately is lost as well.
Yeah.
But what I must say about the ending to this film, this is the one time that I will ever say this, that I hate you, because I wanted to know more. I wanted more. Like I wanted to. When you see, you see him dropping off Aaron and driving off. I'm like, okay, now we're going to sort of see some sort of 10-15 minute monologue of what's going to happen, and that's it. No credits roll. And I was like, did you do that on purpose? Were you thinking of a possible sequel, or were you just like, this is where I want to leave it? I want to leave it to the viewers to interpret what happens from here.
Yeah, we did debate how we were going to end for a while. We had a few versions of the ending. Yeah. They didn't go on very long. They weren't any longer than what you see. Okay. Nothing was said. There's really no dialogue in the movie, pretty much from the once Brian is dead. There's no more dialogue. And that was pretty much all the various endings were consistent with that. We wanted it to... But in the end, we just wanted to be as simple as possible. We wanted the most simple of endings, and we didn't want to wrap it up neatly in a bow. No. We wanted it to feel as empty and as as empty and like, where do you go from here? We couldn't figure out where these characters go from here, and also the character doesn't know where he's going to go from here. Yeah. So we thought, that's the image. You end on the character who thought this was going to solve all his problems, and he's now come home and his problems are even worse than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's now, not only has he committed murder, he's now got an innocent blood on his hands. And so he's worse off. There's nothing more stronger than we thought than the image of him in his hallway at that dark place. And there is nowhere to go. There is nothing to say. I couldn't possibly resolve the story or the film any more than the character could resolve the situation. So that's sort of why we wanted to leave it. But it is interesting, having shown it to lots of audiences. So many people have had that attitude that you have expressed, that I want to know what happens to these guys. I want to know how we're going to end. And I have had several people go, sequel, show us what happens.
No.
But
I'm like, no.
But I haven't got I have no sequel. I have nothing more to say that the movie hasn't already said. So it is, it's there, and I hope people just go away and talk about it, and they come up with their own ideas for how they think characters are going to go.
Look, I honestly think it was a perfect ending, because I love endings with a little bit of question,
Yeah.
Did they get away with it,
Yeah. Will they get away with it? What's going to, I don't know where I read it, somewhere, and probably some very famous filmmaker said that it's better to make a film where the audience walk out going, damn it, I wish there was just a little bit more, than them walking out going, oh God, that could have been 20 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
True. It's like, if you've got to have one, which neither are, you want the perfect film, really, but if you've got to have one or the other, make sure it's just a little bit. They want just a little bit more. That means that you got them.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, and that was how it was for me. I was expecting maybe even a 5 years later or something, and just seeing, I don't know what I was expecting in terms of where they would be in 5 or 10 years. But and that's exactly what it did to me. It made me want more. Yeah. It made me want, okay, look, here's a sequel idea. It starts with someone finding Brian's body or and going from there. And as I said, I'm not a writer.
Turn it into a detective, show.
Yeah, and then seeing from the other side perspectives, you know what I mean? But anyway, the as I said, it did make me want more. It made me go, I want to know more. I want to know what happened to these guys. I want to know, did it help? Yes, obviously it didn't go as planned, but it never does. And I was hoping that it would give David some sort of closure. And I was hoping, but obviously instead of making the bond between the brother and between Aaron and David closer, it's obviously split them apart. And I just like the whole how they deal with that. So it definitely did leave me wanting more.
Well, that's good.
But
what we wanted to say with the movie, though, was very different to most revenge films. Most revenge films, like Machine Gun Preacher or or whatever those Death Wish or whatever.
Yep.
Revenge is always cathartic. It's always noble. It's like Taken. It's always portrayed that when the bad guy gets it, we love it and we clap and we cheer and we feel satisfied. And I just thought, that's just Hollywood. I thought. I think when it comes down to, and they're all SAS, ex-army, ex-police or whatever guys. I thought, what would a normal person go through if they committed something like this? And the hollowness and the guilt and the shame and the tearing of the soul, really. And that's why the movie's called The Cost, because what was the cost of them doing this? And there's so many costs. Like you said, these two guys who had this brotherly bond ripped apart forever. There's one cost. The innocent life, torn forever. David's guilt, he thought he was going to resolve all his emotional issues by this. Now he's just got more. So it's just, and what's now going to happen with if David spills the beans on the cops, Aaron's going to go to jail along with him, and then he's lost his family. So it really is a movie that says, is this the way to go? Is this really, is committing violence, is eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, is it the right way to go? And it throws lots of questions up to go, maybe we should rethink our attitude to revenge. But we didn't want it to be we didn't want to be so preachy that it came across like a sermon. We just wanted to present some interesting ideas.
Well, the movie did achieve that. And it is, it's the everyman. It's not what does Charlton Heston do once, or what does Liam Neeson do when you've taken his daughter? It's real people who we all like to think that we would be able to, not like to think, but we all think that we would be able to, if something ever happened to someone who we love, we want to get revenge, even, the eye for the eye stuff. But whether you can go ahead with it, and I think that's where, you know, David is the perfect representation of. Troy's took away his whole world, but he can't. He's still deep down a good person and can't justify, like, would Stephanie want me to do this? You know, is it? And that's another thing you sort of explore. You know, where he doesn't really think, he's like, would she want me to do this? And whereas Aaron's like, absolutely. Like he knew for a fact that, like, as well as what you say, he's got the most to lose out of the situation, but he's like, there was no, like, I'm going to do this for her. I'm doing this for her. I'm not doing it for me. Whereas David was doing it for him more than he was doing it for Stephanie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's doing it to try to heal a wound that never healed, you know. And you know, and only when he realized what he was doing did he realize, this isn't going to heal me. This is just going to make it worse.
Make it worse. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and the everyman was very important. Again, just to make it so relatable to normal viewers. That's why neither of these guys are cops or military.
Yep.
They're just it's a you know, a computer software engineer and a plumber who has a plumber who's gotten hold of a rifle and probably never used it before. You know, it's just that these are the types of guys they are, and that's what I think makes it so relatable. You know, there's really nothing about it that couldn't be completely real.
100%. I totally agree with that, and that's what makes the movie so good. One question I did have, and it's not on the list. Sorry, Jamie, this will be my last one. The music, Matthew, the music for this film was amazing. In terms of the ambience, in terms of setting the pace and setting the mood. Now, is this the person who looked after the music on this? Is it someone you've worked with before, or is it someone you've sought out? I do apologise. I don't know the name of the person, so if you could
that's all right.
me.
No, it's the composer is Ronnie Minder, and Ronnie did The Legend of Ben Hall.
Okay, cool.
So we're a great team. Like, we get along really, really well. We're very good friends, and but we also understand and appreciate and love film music in very much the same way. He has a great instinct for composing and can look at a film and really know what it needs. Now, The Legend of Ben Hall is a very big orchestral, sort of more romantic score, I guess. Yep. Whereas what we decided that to really separate the costs is to go the opposite way, and make it very tonal, very primal, very a lot of tension, but understated, very much coming in underneath the movie and underscoring it, rather than being more like Ben Hall, which was more over the over the top sort of score. This is more of an underscore, but also one that we wanted to make sure we gave it a lot of emotion, so it wasn't just the whole time. We also wanted it to carry a lot of very delicate emotions, because a movie like The Cost, with, you know, you've got guys breaking down in tears and you've got a lot of heightened emotions, it's a very delicate balance. It can become off very cheesy if the acting and writing isn't good, or the directing is poor. And then, of course, if you slap music on the top that is just really corny, you lose it. You completely lose it. But
100%.
Ronnie walks those fine lines beautifully, and he delivered a score that I just think was so perfect for this film. And a lot of people have really, really liked it, because it's not telling you how to feel. It's just it's kind of in sync with you. It is just existing the way you feel as you're watching it. So it's complementing how you feel.
Exactly. I was going to say it accompanied the emotions that I was feeling when I was watching them. So when you say, that's exactly how I felt. Because of me being a massive horror fan, and I'll not say this was horror, but this is obviously like a thriller, but music make or break the movie. You know what I mean? And I honestly, that was something I had actually, I don't normally make notes, but I actually made a note to say that I needed to say something about the music, because it was absolutely perfect in every aspect. Every scene that there was music, you just hit the nail on the head. It drew you in that much more. You know what I mean? It just brought you in. And I'm one of those people that I absolutely love about this. I can go into that world. So I had all the lights off. I was watching it through Amazon Prime on my laptop. and I was there with the guys. I was there,
Awesome.
and the music is part of what makes that experience so much better. So yeah,
it does. It really
hands
cements
down.
you into it. Yeah, cements you
Yeah.
into the scene and into the characters' minds. And yeah, well, that's just he's a great composer. I'll be working with him again on my next film, and
Good.
he's a lot of value is Ronnie.
Oh, definitely. Okay, over to you, Jamie. I'm so sorry.
Over to me. No, well, look, fantastic film. I love the cinematography in the sense like the opening shot.
Yep.
With the body and the phone call over the top, man, it's just like I started watching the movie. Like I was sitting at my desk, and I usually watch movies on the couch, but like I just put it on. I thought, I got a cuppa, and then I didn't move from my computer desk while I watched the whole movie. I was just like, I'm not missing anything. But yeah, it's just I love the opening shot and the last shot. Just cinematography with those shots were amazing.
Oh yeah. They were. Look. Cable Williams was my cinematographer. First time I worked with Cable. But yeah, no, he did a fantastic job, and he did it all with mostly natural light and very little manipulating natural light. And only occasionally did we bring in light, big lights and things like that. Most of the time he was just manipulating and working with real light. So, and using a lot of torches and headlamps and car lights and things like that. So he had his work cut out for him. He had to really know how to use those cameras. The opening, the movie didn't start with that opening image of the girl. That was not in the original screenplay.
Wow.
That came about halfway through. We came up with that idea, and same with the phone message. That wasn't in the original screenplay. What we found is the girl was only ever going to be seen in glimpses in the mind of David every now and again in the movie. You would just get a memory glimpse.
Yeah.
But what we did is we shot about 60% of the movie, and then we had to go into a 6-month lockdown.
Yeah.
Gave me a lot of time to edit and play with the footage that I had. And what we'd found is that all this beating and whipping and torturing and interrogation of Troy, everyone who watched the film said, I feel really sorry for this guy. And we went, you know what? We need to see his crime. We need to know how hideous his crime was.
Yeah.
So we had to find a way to go back to the past for one scene to get the audience back on track to understand what it makes. Because you could say, oh, he raped and murdered someone.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the same effect as if you could see it.
Yeah.
So we thought, because originally this story was meant to be, we made a rule. This movie takes place over 48 hours. It starts here and it ends here at almost exactly the same time of day, and we're not breaking that rule, which is why we didn't go any further than when he gets home and slides down the wall. So we thought, well, this is breaking our rule. We're going into the past, and we thought we need to find almost like a corridor to the past.
Yeah.
And that's why we invented the phone idea. He keeps listening to the last voicemail she left him.
Yeah.
And he listens to it all the time. And that came from someone who had lost a parent. They told me they kept, a few weeks after the parent had died, they kept on ringing the parent's phone so they could hear their voice in the voice message, just so they could hear their voice. Yeah. And I thought, that's not a good idea. That's going to keep the pain alive. And I thought, oh, there's an idea for the film. Let's give that to David. And that gave us the window. So as soon as he listens to the message, it gave us the access to go back to the past.
Yeah.
And so that's why we sort of bookended the film with the message at the beginning.
Yeah.
So these are sort of the happy, not mistakes, but these are the discoveries that you make when you're making a film like this. And you've got a bit more time to play with the movie as you're making it because it's independent. These are the wonderful discoveries that the film reveals to you as you go along. Well,
and I can attest, I think that drew me in a lot more because I have been on that end of the thing. I did, a long time ago, lost my mum, and I did have that voicemail, and I would go back and I would listen to the voicemail, the last voicemail left. So it does. I could relate to David in that sense of I know what that's like. Not obviously in the circumstances of how he lost his wife, but I know what it's like while you're still grieving.
Yes.
You do anything, because you do over time generally. There's certain things about that person you forget. You start to forget.
Yes.
Because time goes on and life goes on, and you hold on to that one little thing. So
Yeah.
I think that made a hell of a lot more real for me. So I'm really glad that you actually ended up doing that, because again, that just made it more relatable to me, more relatable to this guy's, and as I said, I could pick up early on that David was very emotional and more emotionally attached to Stephanie than Aaron was, and I think that just sort of cemented that in when we find out he listening to that message so frequently, even while he's doing this, he's taking a break from what he's doing to Troy to go and listen to the voicemail to push him on to say this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly. That was and I'm glad that came through, because it is. It was always about how do we make it more real and more relatable. And clearly this is something that people do, they do when they are grieving. So I think that's probably what people are responding to is they, we've all had grief in our lives and we've all seen pain. And I think that's what people are recognizing in the characters. They're going, I know what it's like to be him. I know what it's like to feel that loss and that sense of powerless and so on, even if it's not to that extreme. But we certainly know what grief looks like and feels like, and that is what I think David's, Jordan brought so much to it was here is a man who's trapped in grief, and he just pulled that off really, really well.
No, it definitely did. 100% made it. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, and so but the cinematography was. We thought that the film was going to look. Because it was very low budget, and we thought it was going to be because it was so low budget and it was all going to be handheld and everything, we thought the film was going to be very grimy, gritty, dirty, much more low budget looking. That's sort of what we thought we were going to get, and it's sort of what we were prepared to accept, because we knew we weren't going to have a big film crew and all the lights and everything. But when we got the footage back, we're like, this is actually quite beautiful. Like it really is quite. And Cable was very, very good at working the Ronin that we shot all the movie on a Ronin. We didn't use tripods. We shot to keep it nice and to keep it fluid and to keep it constantly moving and staying with the characters. We shot it on a Ronin, which is like a handheld Steadicam rig. And it gave the movie this fluidity, and it really made it quite beautiful. And he was really good at operating that. And what we actually did is when we came to grading the movie, which is what the color and the kind of style of the look of the film, I actually said to the colorist, let's go in the opposite direction. Instead of making it all gungy, dim, and dingy like most of these movies do, let's go the opposite. Let's make this look beautiful. Let's punch up the colors. Let's make it look rich. And like a film from the 90s where the colors do pop more. And what it did is it created this beautiful kind of forest and this world that they're in, but with all of this ugliness happening in it.
No, and it came across, it did not come across, it came across looking, not that I was expecting it to look like a as you were saying, gritty indie film. It came across, it looked as if it was big budget. It was beautiful. I messaged Jamie and the poor bugger when I messaged him at 6 o'clock in the morning. He was probably, getting up or on his way to work or something. I said, I'm getting goosebumps watching this movie because of how amazing it is and how great it looks, and the fact that not only am I getting goosebumps, but I just put up a post like when I started watching it, and you'd already responded before I'd even got 20 minutes into the movie. And the fact that someone that I know and that I respect was able to put this together it just blew me away. I got goosebumps watching it and goosebumps watching it again. So awesome. I cannot wait for literally it takes 3 movies to get me hooked. But you only took 2. But even though I absolutely, seriously, if I'd only seen the cost, I'm hooked on anything you do from now on. And that's, as I said, not just blowing smoke. I think you're a fantastic film writer, and I really, really do hope that you get to achieve everything and work with everyone that you want to work with, because, man, if that was an amazing film.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you saying so, and I'm glad to have someone who's rooting for me in my corner. That's always good.
100%, 100%. And that's what I said. Like I have been telling anyone and everyone that I can. When I get my copy on Blu-ray, which will be later this week, my partner Stephanie, whose name is Stephanie, which is
there you go.
I said, look, just be prepared. You're not going to live very long in this movie. But I just she likes these kind of movies too, so we're going to sit down and watch it. So I'll be having my third viewing probably next weekend.
And you'll be able to watch her reactions. Which is very cool.
Exactly.
It's going to be guess who's in the bag? Guess who's in the bag? Guess who's really in the bag? Fantastic movie, but what's next? Have you got any plans for? Obviously, you've got a million ideas.
Oh yeah, always got a million. I've actually calculated of all the screenplays I've written and got sitting in the files ready to be made. I actually figured out that if I made a film once every 3 years, I've got enough movies to keep me going till I'm about 70.
Oh wow!
So I've got lots of scripts sitting in the drawer. But what's next? Well, you never really know what's next. But I'm planning another thriller. I've actually got 2 thrillers in mind that I guess if you put them all together, they make, I guess, a little bit of an unofficial trilogy.
Oh, okay.
So of these high concept thrillers that look at that are thriller genre, but they look at more human things. They look at things in a more deeper way. Under the guise of a regular sort of thriller. So we have a thriller called Impasse that we're trying to get off the ground. I'm not shooting it outdoors anymore. I've done enough film outdoors. We're moving into the studio where actually the whole movie is set in a restaurant, and it all takes place over the runtime of the movie. Like if the movie is 95 minutes.
I love movies like that. Excellent.
So it's like 24 the movie kind of thing.
Yeah. So 24, except it's 95 minutes. Right? So the movie takes place in 90 minutes. Again, it doesn't go beyond that, and it is a boiler. It is a what do you call it? A pressure cooker of a situation that happens in a restaurant. All I can tell you is that. So I can't give away the story, but all I can tell you is that it's about regular people, and something happens in this restaurant, and the shit will hit the fan. I can promise you that. So it's and again, it's about how do regular people deal with out of the ordinary situation, much like The Cost, but probably a little more, but certainly not as somber and as deadly serious as The Cost. It's probably got a bit more. There's probably a little more wry humor in it than The Cost had. So hope we're gearing up for it at the moment, trying to get the money, and hopefully we'll be shooting it by early next year.
Awesome.
Excellent. And I was so glad to see when The Cost officially released, because I know on the last podcast we had you on with, we were talking about The Legend of Ben Hall and how much trouble you were trying to have getting it on streaming services and getting it. I was so happy, and I told Jamie when I saw the graphic that you had, and it was on Apple TV, it was on Prime, it was on all these different streaming services, and the photo of you at JB Hi-Fi with it in your hand, and the fact that I went on JB Hi-Fi's website the day it came out and it was there, bang, ready to go, off she goes. I was able to, I run Windows on my computer. I was able to go into film and TV, type it in, bang, I could buy it straight away. It was just so easily accessible. And I remember how much we were talking last time about how you were having so much trouble trying to get The Legend of Ben Hall to be that easily accessible. So that made me really happy to see that you were able to do that. And was that because that was through, I think the media was through Madman Productions, wasn't it?
Yeah. Madman took on The Cost, and they're they're excellent distributors. So they've done a great job, and they've been very supportive, and they've done the right thing by the film. Can't say too much about the people who did Ben Hall. So it was, but it's funny that, the week that The Cost came out, The Legend of Ben Hall finally came out on SBS on demand.
I saw that. That was amazing.
So it's
that's awesome.
So it's a nice little double whammy. You can sort of see the old one, and now you can see the new. So yeah, I hope a lot of people, give the cost a crack. I know some people have been a bit apprehensive about watching it because they feel like it might be like torture porn or it might be too graphic.
Yeah.
But I try to tell people, I just say, look, I'm going to drive you to the edge of the cliff, right to the edge, but I'm not going to push you off. So if you can just stick with it, you might get something a bit more out of it than your regular Liam Neeson retribution film.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way. Yeah. That's a good way to describe it because that's right. And by the ending that you've given it, it leaves it open to interpretation. You can go, well, I'm going to picture these guys. I'm going to say they lived happily ever after because they, I hate saying it, but I support the idea of where that comes from. But then you can have maybe they were caught, maybe it led down a darker path, but. I really was very, very happy to see that because I do remember we talked about Ben Hall and did have Mad Men. Are they seem to be on board for any future product? Do they seem keen to be on board for future projects?
At this stage, we've sent them in pass and we're waiting to get a response from them, but we haven't yet heard back, so we're not sure. Whether they'll be on for the next one, we'll have to see. It's always hard when they came to the cost when it was already a finished film, so they just saw it and they were like, "Yeah, this is great, we'll take it." But in the case of Impasse, it's just a screenplay right now. It has been written by Greg Moss and myself. So it's from the same team as who made the cost. Yeah. So we're hoping that that with all of the great reviews and publicity that we're getting for the cost, that'll really help people trust me as a filmmaker and give me a go.
Well, and I can see so far, I've seen via the cost Facebook page that it's already winning awards, which is absolutely fantastic. I always get a bit of a smile when I see how well it's actually doing because for how long it's been out, and it deserves every accolade. So congratulations on all of those awards as well because it's definitely well deserved. And
thanks.
I just everyone that I know that even if they're not into these kind of movies, like I'm going to be buying a copy for my dad. My dad loves Aussie movies as well. He loves these thrillers and stuff. Awesome. So I'm sending it up to him for Christmas, whether he likes it or not. He's got no choice in the matter. He will be watching it. But
good Christmas viewing. Good Christmas viewing.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. But he I'm trying to get as many people on board as I can because it is such an amazing film, and I hope it doesn't. From what I can see, it's not getting slept on. Everyone that I know and have recommended it has actually watched it and enjoyed it. So that's what we want for you because I want nothing but success. I want to see you keep pumping out the movie every 3 years until you're 70.
That would be fun.
I would happily
that'd be good.
That.
That'd be good because I gotta earn money somehow, and that'll keep me going.
Not a bad way to earn money. So
no, not too bad at all. So that's what I've been working hard for. But look, thank you very much. Definitely. I really appreciate your support and for helping getting the word out there. And there was a lot of hard work went into this one, and a lot of people put a lot of free time into it. And and I just hope it takes their careers. I really want to see these actors all on other projects because they're such good actors, and I really think that they should be booking more jobs after this.
Definitely. Awesome. I definitely can see these guys, in even if it's just getting some TV roles out of it. I didn't see a bad actor in the film.
Yeah, we were very, very conscious of. I told the actors at the beginning. I said before on our first cast reading with the three guys, and I said, guys, this movie lives and dies on your performances. It's not going to depend. It's not going to be about how fancy. We don't have horses and carts and costumes and all that stuff to trick people. We said this is an actor's piece, and I said that's what I'm committing myself as a director is to your performances, and they were committed to getting their characters 100% right, and they just poured themselves into it. And I think the results are up there on the screen, and they're there forever now.
100%.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Matthew.
No worries at all. And I hope, and just a little shout out to Adam Wilson. Yes, you saw that I did manage to get him in this one as well.
Yes.
I've got to. He's my lucky charm. I've always got to have Adam in my film. So we'll see where he pops up again next time.
And look, if you do end up ever filming in Sydney and you need 2 extras to walk past the shop, me and Jamie would be more than happy to do it.
Awesome, good. All right, good.
That is my goal.
I got you booked in. Got you booked in for Sydney.
The only request I have is I want to be in the same scene as Adam Wilson.
Okay. Right. No worries. Adam Wilson. Okay, I'm sure we can work that out. Maybe he's got a drinking buddy. He's got a drinking buddy in the next one.
All right. Cool. All right.
There you go.
Or I could just walk past or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening and watching. If you want to reach out to us, thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com. Check out our Instagram stories_podcast, and we'll catch you next time.